This time, three people from three different walks of life, they got together. One, the son of a big business family. One, the son of a radiologist from the Indian Railways. And the third person from the corporate world of supply chain management and purchase from a Swiss Novartis company. Also the son of a businessman. They started all in a very diverse way, but there was a common thread that actually bound them together. And that was their attachment to the ISKCON society, Krishna consciousness. While all three of them came from very diverse backgrounds, they decided to get together and build an enterprise where, they could serve society, at the same time create wealth without having any karma, without having any bad karma. So this is a beautiful journey, nothing like hearing it, as they say, from the horse's mouth. So at this point of time, I would invite Kushal Desai and Rajiv Srivastava and Sanjeev Maheshwari to come together and explain about their enterprise called Apar Infotech. Started off in a very modest way. Rajiv was working in TCS and he's a son of a big industrialist. Sanjeev had a job at Novartis. They all three got together. You can see how when pure hearts and minds get together, what a magic gets created, It's like, as you say, turning something out of nothing in one sense. Yeah? So please give them a big hand. Kushal Desai, Rajiv Srivastava and Sanjeev Maheshwari. They're going to take us through that journey. Please take us through that journey and more specifically, please tell us what actually inspires you to tirelessly keep working and giving back to society what you have received.
Good afternoon, everyone. The three of us would just like to, make a humble presentation in terms of, an example of how, a business was created. I'll just go down memory lane and give you a little bit of a background in terms of how this Apar Infotech actually came about. Rajiv has been a software professional. He used to work at TCS for many years, which is the main, the mother pond from which the whole Indian IT industry was born. So he was in TCS for several years. After that, he worked for a corporation in the United States called Mastech, which was a software services company. Sometime in 1995, early 96, Rajiv had a thought of wanting to start up his own business, and to start up a business with a difference, which basically had charity somewhere in the genesis of that business as such. At that point in time, I was actually seconded from our company Apar Industries into a joint venture which we had with General Electric called GE Apar Lighting Limited. So I was staying in Bangalore, and given that the IT industry was really growing very rapidly in Bangalore, Rajiv used to visit Bangalore quite frequently, and when he'd visit, he'd stay at our house, in Bangalore. And so in one of the times that he visited, he actually threw up this idea, saying that I want to start up an IT services company, and do you have any suggestions in terms of how I could access funding? Now, I come from a commercial background. I've studied in business school, etc. So one of the things he did was he brought his business plan and he, presented it saying, what do you think about this plan? So while running through the plan, the business looked very interesting. It had good profitability. It had a good return on capital employed. The typical parameters that one looks at. So I popped up the suggestion to Rajiv saying that, what if the two of us actually, I'll talk to my father, we'll figure out how we can get the financing. Let's put the business together. But then, as we wanted to set up the business, we said that we want to set up the business with a difference. And that is where actually Radhanath Maharaj came into the picture. We wanted to look at setting up this business. It was nothing, it was a business plan. But we decided to make a pledge up front saying that we'll run a business on a meritocracy basis, but 50% of what comes into us in the form of dividends, capital appreciation, or whatever, the money that comes into our hands, we will then put that money into charitable causes. Now, when this thing was conceived, we had actually a wire transfer of $1 million as seed capital. It was a really big move for Rajiv, and I'll leave it for Rajiv to explain what happened in his mind before he actually made the plunge. But we were people from very different. Two of us were from extremely different backgrounds. Rajiv always came from a family which was in service. His father was in charge of the largest railway hospital in Mumbai and a radiologist. His whole life he had, his whole mindset was, you get a steady job, you get a salary. In my case, I came from a business family background. Neither of us really knew how to run an IT services company as such. So there was a question that had come up from my father when we asked him actually for a loan, to start the company up, saying that, do you guys know what you're doing? Because one of you has run business before but knows nothing about IT. And the other guy knows about IT but doesn't know how to run a business. However, I think, at the end of the day, the courage that came up to do this was largely from a philanthropic motive. We started off as 1 1/4 employees, and I'll explain to you how this 1 1/4 comes about. Because Rajiv was at that time in Singapore, he was working full-time as the first employee of Apar Infotech. And I had a full-time job as the managing director of GE Apar Lighting in Bangalore. So I used to assist him, in the evening hours and over weekends, etc. And then from there, we slowly actually started growing this company going forward. So that is a little bit in terms of, the background. When we started the company, there were two things. We obviously approached Radhanath Maharaj to seek his blessings, because the aim was one of the incentives that I had specifically from my side is that from school days I used to be involved in fundraising for charitable causes. We had this National Association of the Blind. We had so you'd go out with dabbas standing in the streets, collecting money at signal lights, going to friends and relatives. We had these mini marathon type of things to be run, the Terry Fox run, things like that, where you raise money for charity. And one of the experiences that I had was that it was very difficult to get any money from people for any of these charitable causes. So, and I can give you a couple of stark examples. You'd go to somebody's birthday party, there'd be a very lavish party. When you went with that charitable form, you would get not more than 10 rupees. And if they were extremely generous, you would get maybe 100. So one of the things which was at the back of my mind was that, dovetailing into Rajiv's original thought, that why don't you set up a business where, if the business is successful, then, a large chunk of money can actually go into that business. We don't have to go around with a rice bowl or with these dabbas, to collect money. These businesses itself can actually result in, a very large amount of funding for the company. If I go a little bit further back, I actually went to study at a university in the United States, the University of Pennsylvania. When I graduated from there, I had I went to meet Radhanath Maharaj to seek his blessings and his advice that, now moving from university into the corporate world, what is the advice that you have for me? What should I do going forward? So Maharaj, in his general humility, he didn't really say anything initially, but then finally he gave me a piece of advice saying, make sure that greed and pride, he said that Jesus Christ says that greed and pride cometh before the fall. So as you go out into the corporate world, make sure that greed and pride are two things that you have some control over. So that was basically the thought process that I had actually getting into into this Apar Infotech business. Our family has always been in manufacturing. This was a diversification into a services business, so it seemed like a win-win from a shareholder corporate standpoint. On the other hand, it met up with Rajiv's ambitions. Plus, we had this philanthropic thing in front of us. So with that little background, I'll turn it over to Rajiv. He can run through what the initial processes are. One of the conversations which we had was that entrepreneurship is like pregnancy, easy to conceive but difficult to deliver. And that's precisely what we went through actually. So, Rajiv can run through that. One of the clear things which we saw was that because we'd come, with a fairly noble idea in our mind, or a commitment in our mind, there was really an invisible hand that helped us through all this. And so I'll just turn it over to Rajiv, and maybe he can run through a little bit of the journey which we took. Thank you.
Gentlemen,
show us a business plan. I had absolutely no idea how to even prepare one. He went to Wharton School. I was supposed to have gone to a management school, but I ended up spending more time in the temple than in the school. So what ended up happening was I went to Chaitanya. Kushal was in Bangalore, so I went to Chaitanya in Bombay. That is Kushal's younger brother, and he helped me prepare the business plan. I don't know if you know that, Kushal. So when Kushal looked at the plan, he did see it looks like a nice Wharton plant. I don't know if he knew that. Yeah. So anyway, I'm quite thankful to Chaitanya for helping me put the plan together. While the planning stage started in 95, 96, I had the opportunity to both meet Bhakti Rasamrit Swami and His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj, because I was feeling a little unhappy in where I was working. I could see the company grow, I could see me growing in the company, but at least the company owners were not very much attracted to giving back to society. So when I went to Maharaj, they gave their blessings and they said to go ahead and do it. But for 6 months, I did not have the courage. Not only has my father not been in business, I don't think in our family anyone has ever been in business. And while the idea seemed fine, I still did not develop the guts to go ahead and do this. And lot of businesses, you plan, and you can say you're executing to a plan. This business did not start while there was a plan. Everything happened literally because of the mercy of both His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj, his mercy, and Bhakti Rasamrit Maharaj, who had blessed this right in the beginning. So when I was not ready to start the business, Krishna Chandra Prabhu had visited Singapore, and while he came in, a few days later, I developed a difference within my earlier company, and I was actually fired. And that really gave birth to the business. So it wasn't, we would all like to, I would have otherwise liked to say, I planned it, I had the guts, and I went about doing it. I did not have the guts, and, Krishna, it was very, I would say coincidental, but I thought Radhanath Maharaj actually wanted me to somehow or the other serve Srinathji Prabhu and Krishna Chandra Prabhu, who have, over so many years done so much for the temple, and they have given everything they had from their business, from their time, and Maharaj was very keen that I can somehow or the other assist both these wonderful devotees. And I did the business with Keshav Prabhu and Kushal and Srinathji Prabhu's Apar Industries, and Krishna Chandra Prabhu was in Singapore when this great event happened, and it started the company. Now, I'll actually take you to the next slide. Can we just go to the next slide? Yeah. Okay, see the objective we've got, the one after this. Okay, the one after, no, the next one. Yeah. Actually, while the company started with a bang, what really was the turning point was in 97. Normally, most of us who have been with Radhanath Maharaj, whenever Maharaj has to go from one city to another, he will normally visit the restroom before and plan his visit. It was to my good fortune that in the city of Pittsburgh, from New Vrindavan to Pittsburgh, I had the fortune of taking Maharaj, and we were driving. And what I did not want to share with Maharaj at that time was my US business. We had a manager, I don't want to name him, he's not here anyway, who had given us a 400,000 loss. And since we had funding of only $1 million, that was like 40% of our funding gone down the drain. So we were on the verge of actually, if it had continued for another few months, we would have to shut the US business. And Radhanath Maharaj, suddenly while we were driving, he said he wanted to visit the restroom. And I said, Maharaj, the closest restroom 2 minutes away is my office. And Maharaj said, okay, let's go to your office. And sure enough, we went to the office, Maharaj went to the restroom, and then spontaneously he walked all over the office. He wanted to, take a tour of the office. He walked all over and gave his blessings. He even said, which room are you sitting in? He came to that room and to, all the other rooms in the office. And, we never asked him, but it was just his, his very kind mercy that he just said, I bless this office and the company. And after that, we never looked back. The business turned around. So in my case, I can literally see that while, we can say we have, started the business, we had a good vision, but literally at various steps of the, the company's growth, I could literally see that it is simply the desire, the mercy of our Guru Maharaj to try to engage us in serving his, in serving all the projects that he has desires to serve Srila Prabhupada with, that enabled this company to keep growing. In fact, a month or two later, we had a severe payroll crisis. And, in the US, if you miss one payroll cycle, you'll have 40 lawsuits. You practically have to close a services company. And, to my good luck, I did not take too many people's permission, and I was just in a crisis as a CEO. So I called up, Radhanath Maharaj's father, Jerry Slavin, and I said, I urgently need $50,000. And he didn't even know me. I mean, I just invited him to inaugurate the Pittsburgh office, and we got to know each other without, asking for a collateral. Within a day, he just wired the money because, with RBI, the process takes some time, and both Kushal and Sanjeev know I'm fairly unplanned, and therefore, when there's a crisis, all of them have to literally figure out a lot of ways to solve the crisis. So, Jerry Slavin was kind. He gave us the 50,000. He, of course, regretted he should have taken stock instead of taking the money back with interest. Had that happened, maybe it would have, it would have done well for him too. But anyway, please.
I did want to mention something that actually when we started the company off originally in Singapore, in a span of 1.5 years, we actually became the largest software services provider in Singapore. And part of the reason why Rajiv had this payroll crisis in the US was that in any business, your working capital gets significantly, caught up. Because we were very successful in Singapore, I think, being young and aggressive, we decided to expand, in the United States with a fairly aggressive plan again there, with a decent sized office with, high profile, very successful people who we hired apparently. The point I wanted to make is that our realization was that, even if you have a good motive in terms of, philanthropy if Krishna was a 50% stakeholder, you end up going through, these sort of ups and downs in the business. But the difference is that with this invisible hand that's with you through this period, it is much easier to deal with, the up and downs which we experienced, in the business. The other thing which we ended up setting up, we actually tried to take some of Radhanath Maharaj's value system and incorporate it in the employee values which we had in the business. And one of the first values which we stated in there was that trust and respect will form the basis of our human relationships. And it helped us to develop these values because of a spiritual connection, because of a philanthropic motive that was there. I can also tell you, and Rajiv can go into a little bit more detail, some of the people which we ended up hiring, we would never have been able to hire if they did not also subscribe to the fact that this business was set up with a difference where it did have a charitable motive. So if you see some of the leadership positions that we ended up hiring, these people had come from backgrounds of companies like IBM, Accenture, Verifone, which was the largest payment gateway company in the world. These were like big multinationals, and Rajiv here used to always give them the 9 yards in terms of, the value system that we had in the company plus what, the intentions were. I think the important lesson which we learned from that is that, Radhanath Maharaj actually mentioned that in his talk earlier today, that, people, some of the best and brightest people do look once, you have paid them a good compensation for a difference in terms of what, the business is finally going to accomplish. And one of our star performers in the business, very senior guy, today he runs a $200 million IT services company as a CEO. He said, if I can do this for XYZ company, right, and I'm getting paid X amount of money and I can deliver similar results with a similar pay, I'd much rather do it for Apar Infotech, knowing the fact that a substantial portion of the final gains are going to go into charitable causes. So, to just sum that point up, I think it did make a difference in terms of attracting talent, where people had, particularly in these businesses like information technology, creative businesses, I think the mindset of people is also a little bit different in terms of, being able to, preferring to work for organizations where there are, better motives in place other than just, just pecuniary or monetary gains.
Since Kushal was just 1/4 time, he realized that to rein me in, we finally had to get Sanjeev.
So I actually joined in little later. The company was already set up. It had grown up to a certain level. And then I and Rajiv knew each other for a long time. So I don't know, there are some people in this room who know that Rajiv is also an ace recruiter. So probably half of Singapore would know him, because at some point of time or the other, Rajiv would have recruited and these people would have passed through Apar. And he still, somehow or the other, he's got such a phenomenal memory that he still remembers maybe people who have been recruited 10, 12, 15 years back. And suddenly he'll say that, oh, you remember this guy? He used to work and he may be in this particular organization. So in 2000, when the company needed to expand into India, and Rajiv had been having discussions with me for maybe a year before that or 6 months before that, he just mentioned that, this is what is the motive of the company, why don't you come and join? And I had to really think about it because I was reasonably well settled in my job at a reasonably senior level and mainly into manufacturing area, never into services. So it was a big change for me to, make a shift into something which was virtually probably in India starting from scratch. But it was a very pleasant, I started from the APAR office. I think there were just a couple of people over there, and from there things grew in India. And in a few years, I think we spread quite fast into Mumbai as well as Bangalore with a number of offices. And I remember that, things which I had never done before in terms of trying to build buildings and, negotiate leases and so many other things and, furnish the premises, get people recruited, manage things. But it was a very interesting and joyful journey. The only thing which attracted me was after having worked for 12 plus years in multinational company where, none of those companies really have a motive which is, they do have something like a CSR activity, but that is not the core motive. That is maybe a side motive where a small percentage of money is spent for CSR activity. But here, the core motive was actually inbuilt into the value system of the company, where it was very clear that 50% of the profit or the upside would go for charity. So that is what attracted me, and I think it was a very, very pleasant journey. Also, I think one thing, as Kushal just mentioned in passing, it was initially not very easy for me to balance between Kushal and Rajiv. Kushal, is extremely methodical and systematic, and Rajiv is not very, very systematic in terms of, but Rajiv has such phenomenal ideas that sometimes, he just thinks out of the box, and to bring it into, some sort of operational to get it going is you require, some amount of time, effort to do that. But Rajiv had always, new ideas to throw up, new geographies to expand into, and then we had to quickly scramble and try to figure out how to implement it. But it has been really a very, very, inspiring and pleasant journey for me at least.
I did also want to mention one thing actually, what resulted in actually Rajiv and, primarily trying to headhunt Sanjeev into the firm. APAR Infotech had started growing well. We were continuing to be the largest services provider in Singapore. After Maharaj having come to our Pittsburgh office, there was a 180-degree turn. The business just skyrocketed. And we started the business in 1997. By 2000, it was already a $25 million enterprise in that period of 2.5 years. It clearly meant that we had to go to market to raise funding, and and so Rajiv and me put a pitch book together, and we started going to the. Fortunately, we had a track record of these 2.5 years, which had shown great growth, etc. So we went to the who's who in the in the venture and private equity industry in there. Finally, we ended up actually getting funding from Warburg Pincus, which is one of the largest private equity players in the world. Of course, the funding came after a lot of interviews and due diligence, etc. But I wanted to specifically highlight one thing, that there were 3 senior people involved in part of the region. In fact, Ashu here is the wife of one of them, Rajesh Khanna. There were 2 co-heads for this region, which is Pulak Prasad and Rajesh Khanna, and their boss, Dalip Pathak. So they actually grilled the 2 of us. They had a lot of choices because the IT services was the flavor of that period. There were a number of companies that were there of different shapes, sizes, valuations, etc., etc. But one of the things that came across from them, and this is what they told us post having made the investment, that one of the key differentiators that they saw, besides the business being a fast-growing business, being run well, etc., was the intent of the promoters, and the background of the promoters and what they wanted to do in terms of the company and some of the wealth that actually came into their hands. So that's something that I did want to mention, that even though it appears as if everything is just absolutely transactional, it's very clinical in the way in which these evaluations are done. The direct feedback that we got once the investment was made was that this was one of the factors which they considered actually in terms of the other thing that they ended up doing was that they wanted a larger piece of equity in the company, just like any private equity firm wants. So after taking Maharaj's guidance, we actually did our first mini divestment at that period. And the temple structure that you see is something that got built. The current Radha Gopinath temple structure is what the money went towards, from the first major divestment that took place in the business, which is when the Warburg private equity money actually came into the firm.
Regarding Warburg Pincus, the background is Kushal and me had gone to about 7 or 8 VCs before the Warburg Pincus meeting, and we were consistently rejected by all the 7 or 8 VCs, mainly because again they were Silicon Valley VCs. We are a services firm. Technology, this is, you're talking 2000, where everybody wanted to invest in some .com or something. Then Kushal went to Bombay and he met Pulak, and I was then asked to meet with the Warburg people in New York. I was alone. I had already got 7 rejects, and I said, well, it doesn't matter. You're down 7. If one more says no, who cares? But I'm going to say something different this time. So I went to New York, had to go in a typical suit, tie, and there was Chip K in front of me with a few others. And I don't know whether I shared this with you, Kushal, but Chip K said, why should I invest in your company? You're just like one of the 50 other Me Too services companies coming to us. I told Chip, Chip, do you want me to give you an honest answer or a management answer? I'm prepared with both. Unfortunately, Chip chose the wrong question. He said, give me the honest answer. And then this time, the answer was very different, not quite what Chip, even in his wildest dreams. Of course, Chip is now the vice chairman of, is he the chairman or vice chairman of Warburg? That time it was Bill Janeway. And then I told Chip that, look, we both, so we didn't just, talk about charity. I told him that, look, we both co-founders have started the business under the, blessings of His Holiness Radhanath Swami, and with a view to, to give half of our upside to Maharaj's projects. He absolutely did not expect an answer like this. He would have expected a little more polished, maybe charity or something like that. But I don't know what came in my mind, and I just decided to lay it all in as honest, as detailed, and in the end, as Kushal said, they may not have entirely, understood, some of the other aspects of what I had to say, but they did give the 9 million check into the company. We were able to divest part of it, and in fact, one more incident, you can again see how things happen simply by Maharaj's desire. Maharaj in Vrindavan, met Govind Prabhu, and he expressed to Govind Prabhu that he desired to have a structure for Radha Gopinath temple resembling one of the, the Goswami's temple. So he wanted the stonework and everything. So that's where the desire came. And when Warburg invested, the first part, if you remember, Kushal, was a small one. 1 year later, Pulak got some, after Maharaj had this desire, then Pulak said that, we have got some more money lying in fund number so-and-so, and we would like to increase our equity in your company. And so you could just start seeing, normally I have not seen, we didn't do anything so spectacular that these people should come back a year later and want to increase their investment in a services company. So, while they initially expressed the interest, Kushal and me may have got a little aggressive, and we asked for an 80 million valuation that particular year. And, for maybe in one sense rightful reasons, because now I'm on the other side, I can understand Pulak said no. And I had to then inform Maharaj that this is not happening. Maharaj, I know you wanted to do the stonework, you had this desire, but Warburg has said no to the second round, which was going to be roughly, if I remember correct, 6 million or something. And Pulak then was coming, so I called up Radha Gopinath temple, but it's very hard to get hold of Maharaj. He didn't, and I could not convey to Maharaj that the deal has been called off, because Kushal told me, Pulak has said no, the valuation that we were putting forward was a little too aggressive. And then Pulak comes to Pittsburgh. I was not able to get through to Maharaj, and I did not have the faith that when Maharaj has the desire, something is going to happen. And I had also given up. Pulak came, he met all the people in the office. Arvind Sharma is here, a few more people that he met from the office. Suddenly, after the meeting or walking around the office, talking to people, he comes to the room. There's a big picture of Radha Gopinath, a small, small altar. And there he says, what, we've decided we want to go ahead. And that's exactly what happened. They
a renegotiation at 72 million or whatever valuation it was.
Yeah, I think it was 80 only, Kushal. I don't think it was at 5 point.
It was post money, pre-money business.
So possibly.
It was supposed anyway. It's one of those. But finally, the investment actually.
It was still a good valuation. I have no regrets
absolutely.
on that. And then I was able to call Maharaj, and this time I did not have to call him with the bad news. We were just fortunate that Maharaj had the desire, and this happened. I also, have one incident where Apar Infotech had just started, and at that time my goal was very, very, small. Just thought I had committed to come back to India, and when I met Bhakti Rasamrit Maharaj, we just took his blessings, and then he said, he gave such a tall, in one sense, blessing and orders that we thought, oh goodness, it will have to be now 10 years more of work to doing anything. But he just gave his blessing, saying that he blesses the company when I had, we were very, very small, maybe 3 or 4 months into the business. And he says that, he blesses the company that we can assist Radhanath Maharaj in, expanding Radha Gopinath temple. Actually, his words were more that all the tenants should go. So I thought, well, that might probably take a whole lifetime of work. I don't know when that is possible, but we could clearly see that because, the sadhus gave the blessings, we literally saw at every step one thing after another happening to attract such a, great talent pool, including, I'm just saying, Sanjeev, who was there for 14 years. He was the, employee of the year, many years in Novartis. We managed to bring in Sashank, and in fact, we had to bring in a talent which told them Warburg is coming, and we had to tell Warburg that, this talent is coming, and literally, somehow managed to pull a lot of these things off. And, so once again, as you will just see, finally that, Maharaj has always been more concerned about the consciousness of all of us. And Sanjeev will describe what happened when we were, skyrocketing in growth. We were ranked 39th fastest in all India. We were number 1 in Pittsburgh, number 17 or 19 in North America. And we were on an acquisition spree. And then let Sanjeev tell you what happened in, again, a chance or fortunate meeting with Maharaj.
I think, Rajiv, it was in Pittsburgh this happened, or I don't remember where this conversation happened. But at some stage, we were looking at, acquisitions into Apar Infotech, buying out companies because the company was doing well and to have inorganic growth. So we had looked at a lot of companies, and I think we were looking at a larger company called IMR Global at that time. And there was, I remember some discussion which happened with Maharaj. I don't remember, Maharaj, whether it was in Pittsburgh or in Mumbai. And Maharaj just asked what's really going on. So I mentioned to Maharaj that, Maharaj, we are, looking at acquiring companies. And it was for me, 2 years, and there had been a massive growth. And then I think immediately Maharaj said, acquiring companies, I think it's time to sell. So, it was like a little bit of shock. So I did not really think what was maybe behind it. But possibly I think some of the merger discussions and other discussions started late 2002, 2003. And then Apar Infotech went through, in any case, because Warburg was a common investor with Nest Technologies. And the two companies came together and it got listed on Nasdaq. And then, at a point of time by 2006, I think all the key shareholders really sold off.
Throughout this whole period, you obviously have this, you always have this dichotomy, on these crossroads in terms of how aggressively should you grow the business. We were all young guys, very aggressive. In that period, we were in 13 countries, we were at 5,500 employees in that 5-year span, when this discussion we started in 1997. Most of the other big IT companies are already well established. So it was, difficult to actually break into accounts, etc. But this, this question is to keep coming up in terms of, ambition, greed, etc., etc. And of course, a lot of these discussions, we would take guidance from Radhanath Maharaj in terms of, but I think a conclusion which we came to from various lectures of his and discussions is that really there is no contradiction between, you can still be ambitious, but not greedy. And finally, being an engineer, you want to put it into some sort of a mathematical equation. Of course, these things can't be put into an equation, but at least something that can guide you. And one of the personal conclusions that I came into, and I think we share, is that, ambition is greed is the point where ambition crosses the line of ethics. And, we were ambitious. There is no harm in that ambition. The ambition ultimately was because in our company, philanthropy and Lord Krishna was the largest stakeholder. Given the fact that together we were the largest shareholder in the company, and half of it was, was supposed to be the invisible shareholding of Lord Krishna in the company. But, it's very important, this statement is, I think, quite prophetic in itself. But, defining that line of ethics is very important. And how do you get, people can come up with their own notions of what ethics are. One portion of it comes from law, but another portion of it is, the way you deal with people, the way, is the soft culture that you bring to the business. And I think that is where the advice of Radhanath Maharaj, and his instructions and his advice to all of us in various ways, shapes and forms did provide, the guiding line, in terms of that. Bottom line is that, we ran a business which was based on a meritocracy. Rajiv appears here as a very soft person. You are not even seeing the tip of the iceberg. He is a hell of a tough boss. People used to be, there are several Apar Infotech employees here, and none of them would consider him to be anything close to being soft. Very demanding in terms of performance, etc. But I believe that even if you have a charitable motive in place, there is no reason why you can't run a meritocracy, why you can't run the business efficiently, like the way it is supposed to be run, and you can't be ambitious, provided you end up actually, not crossing that line of ethics. At the end of the day, I think, this is not the way we had, this whole business model that came up was something that, it just came up without actually too much of thought. It was really revealed from the heart of trying to structure it in this fashion. And the way we had structured it, I'll just spend a minute in that. We said that, we want to actually end up giving 50% of it in charity. But it's not easy for you to, we had RBI permission actually, because the business was set up overseas. And you can't make Krishna a shareholder and, file that return with the Reserve Bank of India. It's, a little bit of a problem. So we ended up devising it saying that, whatever money comes into our hands, whether it is in the form of dividends or capital appreciation, half of it will then go towards charity. So that model actually ended up working quite successfully, because even if there were shareholders like Insight Capital that came in first, Warburg Pincus that came in later, it only actually, as I mentioned earlier, only helped their perception in terms of what we wanted to ultimately do. It did not take anything away from their investment in the company or them losing any value in terms of the shareholding that they held in there. So in a way, we kind of almost accidentally came up with this model, but it's a fairly good model, for anybody to implement without hurting anything in terms of either corporate governance, shareholder returns, third-party shareholders, etc.
I will just confess that even when one had good intentions, and I could say how important it is to have the advice of sadhus constantly even when you are running this business, that when business starts growing very rapidly, I also happen to have been caught up in the rat race and was pushing Sanjeev, let's expand, let's go buy other companies. And as soon as Sanjeev told me, Maharaj just said, why are you talking about, why aren't you considering selling? And that was, to an extent, a difficult thing for me to personally digest. And I still remember literally arguing with both His Holiness Bhakti Rasamrit Maharaj and His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj that, I was finding it very hard to sell the business. It was easier to sell bits of the business, but now sell the whole business, which means, getting out of having a 1600 employee company and then probably moving to, back to where everything all started. And I could see that when I expressed to Maharaj that, Maharaj, the company is doing well, this is not the time to sell, and there is so much more that one can do for Shri Shri Radha Gopinath if I continue to grow the business. But Maharaj, I could see that his love and concern was not for the the donation or whatever one could give to the temple, but he was absolutely very kindly concerned with my consciousness. When he saw that right now I was going through a phase where the business was practically taking over, and even though the intentions were right, but business is such a place that you can get fairly lost in the business. I was neglecting even a balance towards both family life, and when Maharaj saw that my consciousness would be served better by selling the business, he was very kind to literally advise me on doing something which would be better for my Krishna consciousness. And while I couldn't quite see it at that time, I am very thankful and deeply thankful to both the Maharajas that even though, while I should have, like most disciples, will take only a minute or two to understand and follow Maharaj, I argued with them. I was still not convinced, and only much later that I could see that that was an act of kindness of Maharaj to to tell me to sell the business, to move to India, to move with the whole family to India, and try to maintain my Krishna consciousness rather than just be concerned about growing it and giving more Lakshmi. So the role of sadhus, the role of Maharaj, in our case, has been so important to maintain, to always stay focused on Krishna consciousness, and don't let the business pressures or sometimes it also gets a bit intoxicating to try to keep growing. and how to strike the right balance, and how to continue to focus on the most important thing. Even if your business grows but you lose your Krishna consciousness, you practically lost it all. And so I finally continue to remain very thankful for this most crucial piece of advice and direction, and almost like an order to me, which really saved me, and I'm thankful for that. So yeah, after Apar Infotech, I almost said, okay, I mean, maybe it was more my frustration, where I said, Maharaj, okay, I'm selling, but I'm not doing this again. I can't do this again. And and I was trying to figure out what to do. I had not met Sridhar Maharaj. I saw him last, it was in 86, 87. And in London, I was just visiting London, where I was, more trying to serve my notice period and finally get out of NES, and had quite firmly decided never to go back to business again. That Sridhar Maharaj, for about 1.5 hours, he kept saying that, if you have some talent and you think you can, do it again, he urged that I should, try to serve, Srila Prabhupada's ISKCON. There are many more projects that, you should still, what you have done is a very small, service. And so then, after meeting Sridhar Maharaj, I met Bhakti Rasamrit Maharaj and Guru Maharaj again. And Maharaj, I was even trying to figure out what to do. And, I remember a simple statement that Maharaj tried to, give, where he practically said that, from your Lakshmi, you keep a fixed deposit so that your family is, taken care, you don't have any stress. But then, you try, if you can create businesses and then sell them, then, you may be able to serve the mission better. And I was wondering, what is this about creating a business and then selling a business? And well, then Sanjeev, who's the more, I would say, the wiser of the two of us, we then were able to come up with, having a fund-like structure, and that's what led to Basil Partners.
So the same philosophy of Apar, which Kushal and Rajiv actually started with, after we divested from Apar, and Rajiv was contemplating and I was contemplating as to, what do we do after this? So that is where we thought that, whatever we do, we will try to figure out a model which is going to be very similar to what we have done in the past. The objective is going to be the same. However, I don't think we now have the, I would say, strength to start building it up from scratch. So we will do it more as a venture fund, try to create our own fund, try to get like-minded investors to invest into this fund, and we in turn will, scout around, look for smaller companies where we would invest in. And since all of us were, by this time, I think reasonably hands-on, understood the IT industry, we said we would help these companies, handhold them. So in one sense, we would be helping them operationally, but we would not get involved into the day-to-day operations. So wherever they had issues, if there was some issue in sales, marketing, recruitment, Rajiv would help. If there were some issues in finance, legal, operations side, I could step in. And then we had some other people who are here. Samir was there, who joined in, who's also, a great business development salesperson. So we got like-minded people who joined in and who liked what we were doing. And that is how this concept of Basil Partners was formed. So now Basil Partners is a fund where I think the first fund, basically Rajiv and Kushal were the people who really supported it by investing, a large part of whatever was the money into that fund. And then there were some other 10 or 12 investors, out of which we have some of the investors over here like Darshan Prabhu, who also invested into the first fund. And today the fund is still in operation. We have done some divestments and we see that some more divestments will be done. And in the meantime, last year we rolled in the fund number 2, which has a similar motive, that we would actually invest into smaller, interesting IT technology companies and handhold them, get them to grow, and at some point of time, along with the promoters, divest, and whatever is the proceed, which the fund is supposed to get, 50% of it we will put for philanthropic purposes. So that's how we have multiple companies now where we have invested in. I think it's almost about, I don't know, Rajiv, there are 15 or 17 and odd companies actually where the investments have been made. A lot of them have been now doing quite well, and we are looking at some divestments happening in 2013.
Just add that when I looked at these 17 companies and looking at the growth, sometimes we sit across, Samir, Sanjeev and me, and we ask each other honestly, what have we really done? We may have done hard work, we may give some inputs, advice, but really to see 17 companies and all of them growing, then we just realize that frankly, we don't have a Coke formula, we have some big, philosophy that, that or something that we can tell these people and turn them around. But it's literally Maharaj's mercy and the blessings of the Vaishnava that what makes these companies grow. In all honesty, we go to the board meetings, we go to a lot of meetings, we give them whatever inputs we have, but we really are bewildered what makes it really grow. Like there was one company, the profit was 1.5 million 2 years back. Cisco is an investor in them, and all of them have, for some reason or the other, they meet us, they think we can do something. We also sometimes, at least externally to them, we give confidence. But 2 years later, when that company's profit has gone it's now over 10 million, but we really, in our hearts, literally feel that it is because this co-investor and us have a little different vision. I'm not saying that, you don't work hard. I'm not saying that we aren't giving, good advice. But in our hearts, we know that it is literally happening because the vision is different and the motivation is different. And that's something which we have seen consistently happening for so many, for so many years. I'll go to the next one. Here again, I'll just very quickly run through that we are both, thankful, we are motivated that the people, both Srinathji Prabhu and Krishna Chandra Prabhu, I always thought to myself that Srila Prabhupada met, one very, very leading business person he spent so much time with. There's obviously got to be a reason. And when Srila Prabhupada for 7 years met Srinathji Prabhu, then I had the conviction that he has some vision to, through Srinathji Prabhu, through Krishna Chandra Prabhu, to continue to, teach us how to have the right consciousness in doing business. So with the wonderful examples of both of them, we can happily share with you quite a few other young entrepreneurs, wonderful entrepreneurs who've imbibed a similar spirit. And I'll just take these examples. One is a devotee called Eric D'Souza. I don't know what's his initiated name now. He's just got initiated by Jayapataka Maharaj. I have known him in 86, 88, and meeting him after 15, 16 years, I go to his house. He has two very wonderful daughters who are very educated. One of them is currently studying at Wharton School. The other is studying in NYU Stern. And when I met Eric, who...
Somehow Wharton School seems to have a common thread.
You'll see. Eric's, he finds out he's an investor in the first fund. And his daughters, they wanted to know more. I don't know, were you there in that visit? Or maybe Nikunj Bihari Prabhu. So when we met Eric, his daughter said that, Eric is quite successful in an oil business. And both the daughters told the father that we are not going to join your business, Dad. We are going to go join Basil. And then Eric is saying, look, I thought you're my friend. You're coming after 16, 17 years and you want to take my daughters into another business. And I said to Eric, let's do a simple thing. You have your oil business. We are not telling you what to do. You have other partners. You got your other considerations, in how you run your oil business. He's of course a very, in his heart, he's a big supporter of Mayapur temple. Whatever he can do from his oil business. So Eric, then, we both as friends thought of an idea, and we told Eric that you do your oil business separately, but do a separate business. I don't care, it could be in oil, it can be in some other technology or whatever you like. And that business you do with the consciousness of giving 50% to Srila Prabhupada's mission. And then both his daughters said, yes, we will join that, business. And the father is finally more at peace. And, we are finding that both his daughters who are now studying in these respective schools. Yes, I think so. So that's, so that's about the AGAS group out of Bahrain. Anchor Group based in India, they, we joined hands, and they are very much into cows. And so we have quite a few projects, both including at Govardhan Farm, where, we both have a co-share to give a 50% piece of the upside to the Goshala. Next. Rishi Sethia, a lot of people know Rags to Riches story. He's done quite the reverse. He's moved from riches, and he's doing some wonderful charity work in Colombo. But he's also started a consultancy firm where he's advising a lot of business families to have their normal business, do what they are doing, but add a new business for charity. Darshan Prabhu, very successful diamond business, and he's starting another online diamond business again with the person, with a very sweet objective of giving half of that to Guru Maharaj's projects. We have two wonderful devotees, Sanjay and Dharmendra. Dharmendra is the CEO who's here. We are very happy to have him here today. And even from their company, they have a piece of the upside to, to His Holiness Bhakti Rasamrit Swami's project. Naveen, who's right here, whom I think has at least 10 times the talent that I have, and therefore I have maybe 10 times the hope from him. And Maharaj just earlier said that another very wonderful Naveen Neerath Prabhu has helped Govardhan Farm, and we hope with the blessings of all of you, Naveen can do wonders in service of Srila Prabhupada's mission. Selvam Prabhu, who's also here, is starting a very unique business called Trade FinOps, and he also had a, he wanted to actually come and tell me, can I give the shares to which trust? And then I had to tell him what Kushal said earlier, that there is a different model. You hold on to the shares because we don't know where to even keep your shares. But we really appreciated his mood at such an early stage, and we hope this does well too. Then, as Gaurang Prabhu said, it's time for some of us to retire, or at least plan for retirement. And so, here is really the hope. I won't put Kushal on the spot, but if Kushal can allow Rishabh to come for 3 years, we can have Apar reloaded. And there is Karan Shah, son of, he's also at Babson. Then we have, where is Abhay? So we really, Abhay is truly fearless. He was born on Srila Prabhupada's appearance day, and very soon he'll be completing his chartered accountancy. And I don't know, whichever field he decides to do a business, I'm sure he will do extremely well. We have Priyavrat, who everybody knows, who just got married. He is, like his father, while he's starting in business, I could hear that he can, sorry? Oh, okay, sorry. Oh, right. Okay, someone put Babson there. Yeah, maybe he may go to Babson, but he's not there in Babson yet. I'm sorry about that typo. Then the two young ladies are Rasarani and Ruprani, the daughters of Eric, whom I just spoke. They are very talented, and we hope that they will, start this other business and again dovetail it to Srila Prabhupada's mission. Thank you. Haribol.
Just Prabhuji, just one little quick comment. Actually, when we did the divestment from Apar Infotech, a corpus has been set up. And this is again something which, with the blessings of Radhanath Maharaj, was done for the first time, in ISKCON. So there is a corpus which has been set up, and interest which comes from the corpus is what is used for, the temple activity. So in that sense, there is a posterity fund in place from which, some of these activities can go. So the idea was to actually create this sort of a foundation so that at least some basic services to the temples and other philanthropic activities can continue unhindered. In case, some of these other generations, fortunately all of them are on the right track, but in case something did happen, the train got derailed, you still had a reserve fund to dip into. Okay, thank you so much.